Way back before 2019, us Ace Combat nerds were starving for a new game. The last mainline game, the Xbox 360 exclusive Ace Combat 6, came out in 2007. Assault Horizon came out in 2013, but that was a big departure from the established game mechanics. Ace Combat Infinity ran from 2014 to 2018, but that was PS3 exclusive and multiplayer focused. If you were just looking for a classic Ace Combat experience, well, you weren't eating good for several years. Then, in 2017, the Kickstarter for Project Wingman launched. There was no direct mention of Ace Combat that I could find, but the inspiration was obvious. Project Wingman was a game made by fans of Ace Combat. Considering it had been 10 years since the last numbered AC game, it should come as no surprise that the Kickstarter tripled its goal amount. With funding secured, the devs, Sector D2, got to work, and in December 2020, Project Wingman was released into the world. So what is Project Wingman? Well, as you can expect, Project Wingman, hereafter referred to as PW, plays a hell of a lot like Ace Combat. It's a relatively arcadey flight model, slightly more realistic than AC, but not by much. And you get to be a badass fighter ace, ruling the battlefields of the sky. So here's the story setup. The world is an alternate timeline Earth, in which a major tectonic event shifted the course of history, splitting entire continents apart. Hundreds of years after this apocalypse, the world has mostly returned to normal. You're a mercenary fighter pilot, Hitman 1, callsign Monarch, belonging to the Sicario Mercenary Corps. Sicario gets contracted to fight for the nation of Cascadia, who are rebelling against the oppressive and imperialistic Federation, a multinational, vaguely autocratic empire who are interested in maintaining their hold on Cascadia for its natural resources. Naturally, the war progresses and escalates in reaction to your exploits as an ace pilot. Various gameplay similarities with Ace Combat are present, like unrealistic rearming missiles, style of mission briefings, purchasing aircraft, the flight model, mission structure, and surprisingly deep lore that we definitely will not see in the game. Other things like mission briefings and the story being told through them and viewing aircraft in the hangar, etc. are remarkably similar to AC. Also, it's the obligatory soundtrack mention. Jose Pavli's composing here is outstanding. As you might expect, it shares some similarities with AC's typical music, but it has an extremely distinct feel while accomplishing the same momentum-driven bomb pass. And this is yet another soundtrack worth listening to. So in short, PW is basically Ace Combat. AC vets will definitely feel at home playing PW. With that being said, there's actually quite a lot of minor differences between PW and Ace Combat, and these add up to become an experience that feels distinct in its own right. The first major difference that any player will notice is the ability to select multiple special weapons. Of course, every aircraft comes equipped with the classic standard missiles, good for general use against whatever enemies you face. The list of special weapons is quite long. Depending on the aircraft, you can have a wide selection of weaponry. It's possible to have a total of 4 different weapons in one sortie, allowing for situational flexibility if you so desire. Or, and this is what I usually wound up doing, you can select multiple of the same special weapon, multi-lock missiles for example, and then you have more available missiles to fire at once. Quite handy for target-rich environments. Besides weapons being different, you know how Wingman and Ace Combat are famous for not really contributing anything? PW's Wingmen don't do that. They actually shoot things down. Like, I mean it, they really do some of the fighting. Several times I had targets I was aiming for, and I noticed my allies had already fired a missile at it, and they got the kill. It's not enough to rob the player of all the action, but just enough to make you feel like your wingmen are actually doing something. Speaking of wingmen, should you choose a 2-seater plane, you'll actually get a character for your Wizzo. This is Prez, and Prez is the best. She is your plane waifu.
Monarch's gone off radar.
Come on, damn it, move it!
Prez is so good, I installed a mod to make every playable aircraft a two-seater jet just so I wouldn't have to miss out on her dialogue. For real though, all she really adds is dialogue. Choosing a two-seater doesn't impact gameplay outside of the actual machine specifications. With all that being said, I do appreciate acknowledging your Wizzo's existence. Another very notable gameplay difference is the lack of checkpoints. For whatever reason, Sector D2 decided that there would be no checkpoints in any of the missions, and some of these missions are really fucking long. Especially on hard and above, and for this review I played the game on hard, there were some moments when I was cursing the lack of checkpoints. In particular, Mission 9, Stepping Stone, really chafed my balls with how I just get worn down over the course of the mission, and then a random patrol fighter would eventually hit me with a missile, and there's 20 minutes gone. Most missions really aren't that bad in this regard, but it really stuck out in this situation. I don't think it adds any particular challenge, it's just an exercise in frustration when it happens. And speaking of challenge, PW is way harder than Ace Combat in general. Playing on Ace difficulty in AC7 isn't exactly a walk in the park, sure, but it's markedly easier than PW's missile spam and higher enemy count on hard. In my opinion, anyway. I see people in the AC subreddit sometimes having difficulty with certain missions. If this is you, and you're looking at playing PW, just start it easy or normal difficulty. Those options are there for a reason. There's no shame in playing on a lower difficulty if it gets you to experience the game. Personally, I would have added at least one checkpoint to each mission, just for the sake of quality of life. And side note, I'm allowing myself to go a little bit off script here. I have a lot of thoughts regarding difficulty in video games. I did just finish Elden Ring's DLC. I have a lot of thoughts regarding that final boss, if you know, you know. That may be a thing in the future, who knows? Perhaps the most notable overall difference between these games is PW's Conquest mode, which is a roguelite mode in which you move through different sectors of Cascadia, taking control away from the feds. You get a currency called Prestige as you succeed in these missions, and you use that to buy new planes or to hire mercenary pilots, which range from rookies to seasoned war heroes. Also, you can recruit airships, which is funny because there's such a pain in the ass in campaign, and here you turn them against the enemy. This is a really fun addition to this sort of game, and I hope Project Aces and Bamco are looking. This would be a really great addition to whatever Ace Combat 8 turns out to be. As an additional minor detail, I'd like to highlight the slightly more realistic writing and radio chatter for PW. While I think both PW and AC are relatively clean with what's said over comms, PW's radio chatter draws attention to the things you can't see, namely the stuff happening on the ground. Quite often, the implications aren't pretty. During this new playthrough I did, I noticed a lot more tiny plot and character details during missions. My favorite detail was when you, somehow, hear Crimson 1 threatening a missile control officer who clearly does not want to commit war crimes. So you hear Crimson shoot that man dead, and then they commit war crimes. Fun for the whole family.
Captain Flowers, that's your name, right? If we don't show the rebels absolute terror, this war, step aside. Over my dead body, I will be the officer responsible for making this call. Stand down, Captain. You're gonna have to kill me.
Oh, and one last thing before I move on here. I hope you like orange. Alright, so this harkens back to my main question from my AC7 review, which is just asking what makes a game good, which is going to be pretty subjective to most people. PW has a few quirks. The voice acting can be a little stiff. I don't think the aircraft variety is quite enough, and the lack of checkpoints can set you up for frustration. However, does it achieve the same sense of adrenaline and badassery that AC does? Yes, I believe it does. While the Venn diagram of the PW and AC communities is a circle, I think the little differences in PW's design makes for, if not a completely different experience from AC, then certainly a similar but distinct one. It's kind of like literally comparing apples and oranges. They're different in many ways, but they're both sweet fruits, and they will help you poop. Also, another off-script tangent regarding PW's quirks. This game was made by mostly one dude, but you can attribute it to three people. You've got Jose Pavley, the composer, Matthew Wynn, the producer who did the writing for the game, and Abi Rahmani, aka RBD2, who did all of the coding and the modeling and all the really difficult game dev stuff. And considering they did it for about $115,000 Australian, it is extremely impressive how they've achieved such a shining achievement of a video game that is Project Wingman. I cannot overstate how impressive this game is with its level of polish. Honestly, any quirks that it has, if the voice acting is a little bit amateurish, and if some things are kind of a little bit jank, I can completely forgive it. It's not a big deal. In short, yeah, the game is good. You didn't really need me to tell you that, but if you did, I hope you give Project Wingman a shot. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I do read all of those, for better or worse. Leave a like or a dislike. You can't stop me from putting things on the internet. Okay, bye.